Today I'm going to walk you through my final platformer game so you can see some of the final touches and how we bring all of our knowledge together. The first thing we need to do, we need to play the game before I can show you the Construct 2 stuff behind the scenes. My app has touch controls and has been published to Google Play, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to install that on my phone so that I can play the game. As we discussed in class, it's extremely important that you support mobile devices or anything with a touchscreen as well as a regular PC. Okay, with my platformer installed, I'm going to open it and I can begin playing my game. My game begins with a 4-frame animation, which lets the user know what the goal of the game is and how to play it. Help Chuck, avoid enemies, find those, and get home. Then my Get Ready screen shows, which caches different things and gets the game ready. The first level is really just a trainer level. As you can see, I've got large touch controls that have some opacity. I've got the level in the upper right-hand corner and the score and a health meter in the left. The purpose of the first level is just to let people know what the expectations are and how to play. Then I move on to level 2, which is my space level. What we want is in your game, you put enough variety in so that the user doesn't know what to expect next, but you keep enough components of the game consistent so that you have a theme. My alien stays consistent. The little gem that he uses to power up to get the sword is consistent. The barnacles are consistent. My springboards, the coins. I chose to have fireballs on almost every single level. And I also chose to include the power gem as a power-up on every single level. That way Chuck gets his sword. When Chuck has his sword, only the barnacle can kill him. So in every level, I try to position the power-up in a different place. Level 3, I added this little swimming kind of motion to provide a different twist to the game. I also added torpedoes. But once again, there's some things that always stay the same. Return to the flag. My fourth level is sort of a jungle level where I have these really annoying bees. The game starts to get a little bit more complicated here, and it requires a little bit more dexterity to get through. One of the things I did was I created mushroom platforms in the background. The user thinks that they might be able to actually get on top of these platforms, but they would be wrong. There is one platform further on in the level, however, that you can stand upon. Simple things like this can provide challenge and difficulty to your game. Once again, once Chuck has the power-up, he has his sword, and only the barnacle can kill him. There's the platform that's real, and the rest are fake. Fireballs still rain from the sky, but it doesn't affect Chuck. My last level, I have these aliens with bazookas who launch all kinds of missiles. And on this level, you will see that Chuck's spaceship is actually in the background and he wants to get into it. There's these little Lego style platforms that he can jump on, and I'm still using the barnacles to provide challenge so that even if Chuck has the sword, he can still be killed. As you can see, there's Arvada High School there in the background, Bulldog Burritos. Even little details that the user can't necessarily see are super important. Now all I have to do is get to my last platform, jump over the aliens with bazookas, and there's my spaceship. If I can jump over these barnacles and get that last coin, I get into my spaceship, and the game ends by the screen rumbling and Chuck flying across the screen in his spaceship. Finally, you see a "You win" screen. That's the game. Now let's talk about the code behind the scenes. Let's take a brief look at the code. First, my start layout. As you can see, I have a lot of stuff overlapping. Initially, my big alien is invisible, and my start message is as well. I put on top of that a 4-frame animation, which shows the user what the game's all about and how to play it. After a certain amount of time, I make this invisible, and I make the elements behind it visible. And I do that in the start event sheet. The first thing you'll notice in my start event sheet is the use of the global variables. I use a global variable for current level, next level, health, score, and device type. My startup tasks include setting global variables, preloading audio, caching fonts, and as I said earlier, setting certain things to visible, and after a certain period of time, setting other things invisible. I also have a certain amount of device detection on my start or splash screen. This sets a global variable that's used throughout to either show or hide touch controls. Let's take a look at level 1 of the game. This is the trainer level, pretty basic. But let's go over the layers that most of your layouts should have. They should have a background, content, scoreboard, and touch layer. So this is what the background looks like. The user does not interact with that layer. This is the content layer, normally listed probably second. This is what you interact with. My scoreboard has parallax of 0, 0, has the score in the upper left-hand corner, and then I actually have a level text box in the upper right, but its values are set dynamically in the code so you can't see anything when you're looking at the designer view. And finally, on top, I have an optional layer that I either make visible or not for touch controls. These touch controls I find need to be about 100 pixels by 100 pixels at least, and then give them some opacity. Let's look at the level 1 event sheet. Once again, we include code from other sheets, and then the actual code that belongs only to each level is very small. It may be set a couple global variables, that sort of thing. So let's take a look at the touch event sheet, and this should be included on all of your levels. The purpose of the touch event sheet is to respond to touching of the different touch controls. Let's take a look at the begin level event sheet. This is an event sheet that's reserved for things that happen at the beginning of each level, such as setting the number of coins, setting the width of the health meter, changing the current level global variable, playing the game theme, and assigning the web font family and values to the different text boxes on the scoreboard and level, for example. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Danger event sheet. I have an event sheet just for obstacles. For example, in my danger event sheet, this is where I create the fireballs every 1 second. This is where I have the event for what happens when the fireball collides with the solid, when torpedoes collide with the solid, when the torpedo collides with a yellow barrel. I normally create explosions and set their cleanup instance variable. When the fireball collides with the alien, and if it's not invincible, then decrease the health meter and decrease the health. I have similar rules for the missile and how it interacts with the alien. I also have cleanup in here. For example, every 5 seconds I try to clean up old explosions, as well as every tick I destroy any missile, fireball, or torpedo that is outside the layout. Finally, I'm always checking to see whether the alien has run out of health. If the alien's run out of health, I destroy the alien, stop the game, play the game over sound, wait 2.5 seconds, and we start that level all over again. The last one I include in every single level is the alien event sheet. This is where I've coded common animations, mirroring, and collision events. I code all of the different rules for when the alien collides with the coin, the barnacle, those pesky little bees, torpedoes, as well as when the alien collides with the flag and the alien has collected all the coins. In the alien event sheet, I also include what happens when the alien collides with the power gem, the power-up. For example, I set his invincibility, play a sound, etc. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other levels' event sheets. As you will see, each level's event sheet does not have very much code in it. It normally has the 4 includes, sets some global variables, sets the score on the scoreboard, but once you get to level 3, as the game adds complexity, you'll see that I've had to add some level-specific code groups. So this is the level where the alien's underwater, so that requires a lot more code. Once again, I always group code and add comments. On level 4, I have some enemies that are level specific, so I put the code there. Level 5 is a little more tricked out. I've got level specific enemies, and I also have the code that involves what happens when alien overlaps with the spaceship and all the coins have been collected. I have to put him in the spaceship, rumble the screen, and direct the spaceship off of the screen. And my winner layout is pretty simple, and so is its code. It has to set some global variables and also has to respond to when the user touches the screen so that we can play the game all over again. Hopefully this walkthrough has given you some idea of how your final project should be structured, where the code should be, and has given you some tips and tricks that you can use in finalizing your game. Okay, my game is done, but I need to see how I scored on our My Platformer rubric. As far as creativity, when Roberto Vado scored mine, I got a 10 because I showed maximum creativity through use of different sprites, obstacles, villains, layout diversity. In the area of features, I had 5 levels, at least 10 animated objects. I had about 10 unique behaviors, 10 unique moving obstacles. I had only 5 unique sounds. I had clear, accurate instructions, and my score was maintained accurately throughout. So in that particular case for features, I had a mixed score. I got a 31 out of 35. So a 10 for creativity, a 31 out of 35 for features. In user experience, I got maximum points because my levels progressed in difficulty smoothly. I had a strong balance between fun and challenge. I had a look and feel that was consistent, that added to the user experience, and there were no visible errors in my game. I also spelled everything correctly and published my game to my class website in accordance with the requirements. So I got a 20 on user experience, 10 on conventions. Overall, I got a 71 out of 75 on the game. And remember, 25 of the points are going to be scored by the instructor, me, so I'm not going to score my own. Hopefully this helps you prepare for scoring of your game.